رح ننتقل إلى الاقتصاد السلوكي تحديدا، حيث بيتر تيرنر بيعتبر أنه دبي كانت بمثابة عامل أساسي بنمو الاقتصادي. وطبعا زميلة هالة بوعلوان بموطن الحلم والإنجاز التقط بيتر تيرنر وتكلموا عن هالموضوع.
طبعا يقول بيتر أن دبي منحته البيئة المثالية للتفوق في مجالي القيادة والتدريب من خلال احتضانها للتنوع والتميز. نتابع بقية التفاصيل.
بيسعدنا أن يكون معنا اليوم السيد بيتر تيرنر قائد بالاقتصاد السلوكي. Good morning, Peter. Great to have you here.
Good morning. It's a real privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, one of the things which always come to my mind when I hear someone is a high-performance coach, leadership coach, like leader in behavioral economic, personal coach, I wonder sometimes if they knew always that this is their purpose, or life circumstances brought them there, or sometimes because these days we see a lot of people calling themselves personal coaches, right? And I'm sure you see it. And I'm sure sometimes you don't want to be even associated with these terminologies because you do another level of personal coaching. Tell us more about this world, and did you always know that this is your purpose?
I was always fascinated with learning and development. And if I reflect back on my own childhood, I found that time difficult. When I was in school, it wasn't an easy experience for me. So ironically, I've returned back to that domain of human performance and personal development and professional development. There were a few moments, key moments in my career where I started to connect the dots and started to imagine what this could be for me. And now I'm able to articulate it. But in those key milestone moments, it was just sort of the fog slowly clearing for me.
And what was the most attractive thing about it? Because we get sometimes passionate to things because it's rewarding in a way. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel, I don't know, we belong to this environment. What was it for you?
Well, for me, it's doing what we feel like we're best at. I often describe what I do as it doesn't feel like work.
Yes.
I'm just in the flow of my strengths. And
because
that
it's
is
natural.
It's so natural. It's so closely connected to who I am as opposed to what I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Peter, one of the things also which we all faced because I think most of us went to personal coaches, to psychologists, to healers, to all kind of, I think faculties or fields which help us in any phases in our life, whether it's related to work, personal health, etc., etc. And one of the common things which I personally sometimes faced, or my friends or family, is when they go to personal coaches or anyone in similar or related domain, the focus is our weakness. And sometimes this makes us sink in this weakness, and we label ourselves like, okay, I'm not good at that, or I attract these things, or I have this pattern. And this is what we see. And we forget the strength. And I know this is not your style. Tell me more about that.
Well, what you've just described is what we call the deficit model of understanding human nature. And probably about 20 years ago was the single biggest shift in personal and professional development that we've ever seen in this domain. And in fact, the whole coaching industry was based on the traditional literature, which was all based on human suffering. So in the coaching world, we had cognitive behavioral coaching because we borrowed it from cognitive behavioral therapy. But that all changed about 20 years ago, and this beautiful, really, and transformational new shift in the way that we think about personal and professional development is this focus on what's right with people rather than what's wrong with them. And it sounds poetic, but actually the data bears it out that it is so much more transformational.
Of course.
And that has been one of those big milestone moments that really clicked for me in my intellectual journey.
It's beautiful. Actually, this brings me to another question. Many people associate themselves or see themselves only as much as they see their title. And once they, for example, quit the job, fired, replaced, whatever, you know, whatever happens, they can't define themselves. I met a lot of people like facing that. I met close people, like in my family, who they got lost. They couldn't define themselves because people associate themselves with, I am my title. What's your view on that?
We had a lovely moment just off camera before we started, and you said, Peter, you know, what do you do? And I gave you my job title.
Yes.
And then you looked at me and you said, but what do you do beyond your job title?
Yeah.
And then I, if you can remember, I paused and I looked up to the sky for inspiration. And then in that moment, you made me think completely differently about who I was and why I do what I do. And actually, it's a question that we ask a lot of our clients. We say, you know, what do you do? And they give us their job title. And then we say, yeah, but what are you actually paid to do? And then they think a little bit more deeply. And one of the experiences that I've had a lot with my clients is they have got onto the treadmill of their careers, they've been successful in one dimension, and then they've got to maybe their late 30s or their mid 40s, and they've had what we call a crisis of meaning.
Yes.
And they've suddenly thought, why am I doing this? What do I really want? And am I really getting the best out of myself? And that is potentially for those people a really powerful opportunity to ask themselves that question.
Yes.
And think more deeply about how they can create amazing value in the world and thrive in the process.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to a friend the other day about the same thing, and he was passing through similar stuff and wanting to define the purpose, although he's very successful. And he was reading actually a book, I'm not sure if you read it, Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is Be Useful, I think, the book.
I have it on my bookshelf, but I've not read it yet.
I didn't read it yet, but he was telling me the same conversation, like sometimes you accomplish a lot, but then you read, okay, will I continue like that? Is this my purpose, etc., etc. By the way, when I asked you this off camera and you said you're a leader in behavioral economics, what is behavioral economics? Excuse my ignorance, I should know, but like...
Not at all. I think it's a fantastic piece of language, and I've only recently, in the last couple of years, stumbled on it as a way of trying to explain what it is we do and why we do it. It really is the connection between human nature and organizational success. But of course, the people need to be successful in order for the organizations to be successful. Yes. And what we know is that there's no such thing really as a great organization. There's only really great leaders within organizations. Yes. And everybody that's watching this will know that your experience of your leader top trumps your experience of the organization.
100%.
And when we study great leaders, we find that they're experts in human nature. They're really, really good at understanding how to light a fire inside of somebody's heart and get them to be inspired so they can go and do incredible things and love it in the process, and then ultimately have high-performing teams and successful businesses.
Peter, I know you were in the UK, then Canada, then UK, then Dubai. Why Dubai? And did you feel like Dubai's landscape added anything to the vision you have, and vice versa?
Well, actually, it was my wife's career that originally brought us here. She's got an amazing story. She actually co-founded the first ever chain of women's fitness clubs in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So she was on this amazing journey, and there was an opportunity to come out and live in Dubai, and for her to pursue that part of her career. It took very little encouragement for me to come out to Dubai. I knew a lot about it. I'd visited Dubai on several occasions.
Which year was that?
That was in 2014 when we first moved here. And when we look at the transformation that this amazing place has gone under over the last few decades, I cannot think of anywhere in the world that is more exciting to be a part of. And I see so many great stories of transformation.
Yeah.
Dubai is transforming, and the people are transforming within this incredible city. So why Dubai is a very easy question to answer, really. It's really the land of opportunity and excitement, and we can do anything.
Peter, like, as a wrap-up for our wonderful conversation, which I don't want it actually to end, it's wonderful, and I thank you for that. For young people, and I'm a mother of, like, my son is 16 years old, and I'm sure like many parents would watch us as well, and many kids will watch us as well. and they have dreams, and sometimes culture, sometimes beliefs we're wired into, sometimes people around us who are like have tendency to put others down or make you doubt yourself or hesitate, and it impacts sometimes kids. What's your advice to those kids? Like one piece of advice where they should always remember to be unstoppable.
Yeah, I love that question. I'm actually going to give it, you've asked for one piece, but I'm going to frame it with two sections, if that's okay. Number one, I've mentioned this idea of strengths. There's an interesting study that if a child comes home with 2 A's, a B, and an F, which one deserves most attention from the parent?
2 A's.
And most people will say the F. Unfortunately, really we should be paying attention to the
2
A's.
A's.
Yeah. And so that focus on who they are at their best, and your strengths are like swimming with the flow of your natural traits. So really trying to discover who you are at your best, that would be number one. And then my second one is around community. And one of the best ways you can change your life is to change the people that you spend the majority of your time with. So pick your community really, really carefully. And that has been the secret to the success of our business, is that we don't think about networking, we think about community building. So think about who you spend your time with really, really carefully.
That's actually wonderful, 2 pieces of advice. Thank you so much, Peter Turner. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.